Good morning, everyone. The awards were great last night. I have big shoes to step in. A 16-year-old with a 4.19 grade point average on the football team in the chorus, who has volunteered more already at age 16 than I ever will in my whole life. Just remarkable. And then calm service dogs, who are at the Boston Marathon this year, really helping calm everyone down. And then Michael Chapman, who did rock the place quite literally, chest bump. Forget about generosity, chest bump. But I have to say, I can't compete. I won't compete with chest bump. Not happening. But I do hope to rock your world today a little bit as we talk about how stories can help you raise money. So today we're going to do some practical application of storytelling, and we're going to bring it into the world of keeping your donors and a little bit into the F word, fundraising. I'm standing here today because I read this book. And I know you can't in the back see this book. It'll pop up on the screen eventually. And I also want to let you know that I am going to name drop, but I'm not name dropping the rich and the famous. I am name dropping people who really provide us with a wealth of fabulous information. And all the names I'm going to mention today of these fabulous communication, fundraising, storytelling resources are all in my presentation. So those of you who like to write to learn, you're welcome to do so. But those of you who want to just be, it is all there for you. So how this came to pass is a little story of itself. I started my company just about 5 years ago, and a friend of mine who was in development at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, a place that raises a few dollars, said, have you read the book by Penelope Burke? No. So you really ought to go read that book. So I scoot over to Amazon, find the book, $65. I said, $65, totally out of line, right, as you know, with what most, quote, fundraising type books cost, right? $22.95, that's like the price point. I'm like, get out of here, I'm not paying $65. 4 months later, run into the same friend. Did you read the book? I'm like, no, I didn't read that book. Book $65. She's like, go buy that book. And I did. And this book was my call to action around keeping your donors. The story also points to the fact that sometimes we need to say things twice so people will hear us. And sometimes we need to hear things twice in order to take action. So it turns out that I begin today, unbeknownst to me, with an intro that is going to recap some of what we heard yesterday from Melissa, from Carol, from Cody. We're going to be talking about why people give, about what makes a story effective, and then we're going to move into today's core topic, which is about keeping your donors, otherwise called donor retention. And think about how storytelling applies to that. But part of my mission today is to really rock your world around the importance of taking action around keeping your donors. As you heard yesterday, why people give. People give based on emotion. That's the driver. Do we need data? Yes, we do, because then people will go look at the data to justify their decisions. So don't tweet out, Diane said, forget the data. That's not what Diane said. Okay. What's important to remember, though, is that it is emotion that drives. I have one sample study right there that's talking about research done on showing how stories really do impact points of view and can unto themselves be persuasive. There is also research through MRIs that really do look at why people are giving and when do brain centers light up, and they also reaffirm that it is emotion that matters. So that point is then one of the main reasons that storytelling has become so hot in the industry. Because as we heard yesterday, as we heard last night, as we hopefully will hear a little today, it is storytelling that is a major way to get us into that emotional place that we want our donors to be in. You'll see that I'm research-based and technique-based, and I will let you know when you're getting the Diane Remin personal opinion base. There's a little of that too. But this is a really interesting study here that really brings the point home. Not surprisingly, when donors were presented with a picture, we saw a bump in rates. And we heard yesterday about the importance of pictures. And that's exactly right. But the surprise of that first study was that donors actually gave 66% more when they received the photo without the data. Okay. Surprise. Second study as well. Donors gave more when they told that something was successful and it had a good efficiency ratio. But when there was no information at all, the giving was highest. And that's because we really want to keep people over in what's known right as their right brain, the emotional side. When we take them over to their analytic place, donations drop. Now, that's not to say you can never use data and numbers effectively to create emotion, because you can. And you heard a little bit yesterday about the notion of surprise. You can use numbers to create an emotional response if they're dramatic and if they're positioned in such a way that they're surprising. But we're going to do an example in a few minutes that shows the difference between putting your story out in a kind of statistical left brain way versus putting it out in a right brain way. So here we are at a before and after. And I'm going to let you read that for a second. And then what I'd like you to do, because I'm going to come down here, is let's all think about, why is that after story effective? Why does that after story work? Any thoughts? Yes. We need to get you a microphone. Oh, we got lots of hints. Okay. The after story works because...
Well, if you're a grandparent or a parent, you see that child in the bed and you see her with the teddy bear and you see her. The first story, you don't see 124 children. You see that child, so it resonates with you. That could be my child or my grandchild.
So Erica points out what Jeff has called a word picture. That after story creates a word picture. You can see it. Why else is that after story effective? I saw some hands back here. Any more hands? Yep.
You're taking it from a number to a human. Instead of it just being data, now it's actually a person that you can relate to.
Right. As Becky points out, we're taking it from a number to a person so you can relate to what's up there. Okay?
I think the last part of the statement, being a part in the fight against cancer, gives ownership to the donor as being instrumental in helping them get care and research. So you feel it's kind of a buy-in.
Right. So this is actually an example of something you would do in an acquisition mode. And as pointed out, you've given the donor the opportunity to play, to make a difference. One more?
Yeah, so the choice of words, like feel-good words like hugged, teddy bear, my good luck bear, feel good. So there's lots of feel-good words.
So the language matters. The language is, in fact, feel-good language. I'm going to turn this off. Go back to me. So we can see that summarized on the next slide. Right. We're going to be, thank you, and we're having a compelled to point out the word you, and thank you, because you're going to see that coming up in big highlights as we go through this. It is a key word. Thank you. So here's what makes an effective fundraising story. Again, I think this is the hearing it twice, potentially, for people who were here yesterday. I do want to point out that fundraising ending, because yesterday we didn't really talk specifically about technique-wise, what are we doing for fundraising? And it's important to say that when you're doing a fundraising appeal, you need to make sure you're showing the gap, where the donor can play. If you tell the donor a story and the story's all wrapped up, the problem's solved, you have your bow, why is the donor going to make a contribution? So you have to be sure that the donor has a place in the story to make a difference. So that's the recap, if you will, and setting the stage. With one addition here, forgot I did this one. We're also going to look at story length, because sometimes we get intimidated about, oh my God, how on earth am I going to write this story, and it has an arc, and it has this, and it has that. And the language I want us to go to is something that I'm taking from Lisa Sargent, and I'm going to read you something from her a little later. And it's the concept of the sparkling first sentence. You can put the word story aside and just think about the sparkling first sentence. Because there are times when that's going to be critical, and it's really going to be critical when we start to talk about thank you letters. But there are lots of other times when you're just writing something short. And that, too, is a moment to think about, how am I going to make that a sparkling experience for whoever I'm talking to? In the video side of the world, we have the 6-second Twitter Vine that was discussed yesterday. And I'm going to stop here and say, you know what, yesterday was cool, right? We saw videos. We saw this stuff. And I'm going to be going back to writing things on paper and mailing them. And I don't want to be called old-fashioned. I'm on Twitter, just so you know. I have almost 6,000 followers, just so you know. But here's the deal. All that fabulous, fun video, it's coming. It's here. But statistically, from a fundraising perspective, online giving is but a sliver of the dollars that are coming in. Some people say, I hear 2 to 10%. Certainly there are organizations out there, they're up at 30%. But overall, online giving is a small percentage of most people's fundraising efforts. And let's see, how many organizations out here have 50% of their or more of their money coming in from online giving? Look around. Not one. Not one. It's not to say that you don't want to have Twitter and you don't want to engage people and that you don't want to be doing videos. Very compelling. But when it comes to fundraising, there's a reason we're still going to talk about good old paper. because it remains the juggernaut of the fundraising world. So here we go, into the land of keeping your donors and why I care about that. Let's all think about what it's like preparing an appeal. My last client, I think they had 8 people editing. Communication manager ready to tear her hair out, right? Everybody wanted in. There's a committee. There's editors. There's a process beyond all belief. Can you relate to this? Yes. Right? We knock ourselves out on the appeal side. But then, what's happening on the thank you side? And I can tell the data tells us nothing good. We're not retaining anything. Donor retention, ha! Ha! Overall, 57% of our donors disappear each year, but drill down, 73% of first-time donors go away after the first year. What is wrong with that picture? A lot. Everything. That's why I'm screaming. Little more information. Getting the second gift within 12 months, within the first year of receiving the first gift, doubles the odds of that person continuing to make gifts. So there's a clock going tick-tock, tick-tock. But on the other hand, we don't want to be asking someone for a gift before we've told them what we've done with their first gift. So we have to balance tick-tock with getting that donor involved. And I am going to put the whole system together for you in a second. The last piece of why I'm hoping you will care more about donor retention is that there's wonderful research now by Adrian Sargent. It's actually been out there for a while, but it's getting publicity now. The whole donor retention thing is really hitting. We have the Penelope Burke information. We have Adrian Sargent information. And even though it's taken 10 years, it's all now a hot topic, as it should be when we see those numbers. And it turns out that Adrian Sargent, his professor, has done research on the lifetime value of donors. And if you increase your loyalty or your donor retention rate by 10%, you're looking at increasing the value of your database by 50%. It's a good investment. It's a good investment. All the time people say to me, how do I go out and raise more money? I want to go out there and I need to find new donors. And I'm going, what about the donors you have? What about the donors you have? These are people who already took an action on your behalf. They wrote a check. They made a gift online. They did something. They've already acted to express their interest in you. Let's take them and keep them going. It is so much easier than having to go out and get someone to be interested in what you're doing. Let's work with the people who've already expressed their interest with their money of whatever amount. How do we know how we're doing in our own nonprofit? So this is the only number nudge I'm going to give you. Does anyone here know any version of their donor retention rate off the top of your heads? Whether it's first to second, whether it's overall, whether it's anything, any number having to do with donor retention. Anybody? 1. I see 2. 2, 3, sort of wave, sort of wave. 2.5. 2.5 people out of what? 400 people have a clue what their donor retention rate is. Yeah, I know, it's funny. It's funny, but not funny. Not really. Not really. So I hope one of the things you'll do is go back to your organizations and have whoever needs to figure this out for you, what your number is. What is that number? Because then you have something to work against, right? How do we know if we're getting better? This is one of the easiest benchmarks. And I actually want to point out that one of the trends and the way we know this is becoming, quote, hot finally, is that there is a new software product that I am not involved with it at all, other than I've seen it. It's called Bloomerang, and it's in your resources. And their entire fundraising product is built around donor retention. So as I understand it, you go onto this product, and what do you see? Boom, on the home page, your donor retention rate. What do you see for each donor? What your next step should be. So that the fundraising world is really starting to shine the spotlight on this. But whatever it is you're doing, please go back and either figure out what one of the numbers is your second gift ratio. So I like to focus on those, getting the first-time donors to make a second gift, because that's the key to getting them to make future gifts. Or you can look at your overall numbers. But whatever it is, I'm hoping you'll all email me. Every single one of you will email me and say, okay, here's my donor retention ratio. Here's where I am starting. That's one of my calls to action to each one of you. And I will actually answer you, every single one of you. If you will do that, I will answer you. So back to that book that got me started. What do donors want? It's so simple. It's so simple. Just those things, really. She knows because she researched that fact. They simply want to be thanked properly, thanked personally, and to know what you did with their money. Is that too much to ask? And this is one of the techniques I'm pulling out. So the book itself, I must say, it's called Donor-Centered Fundraising, and it's a whole philosophy. And I know yesterday Melissa asked you, what size operations you are, and some of you are smaller, and you hear the word philosophy, and you go like, oh my God, I can barely get through the day. I can't do philosophy. So I have pulled some of the techniques out of the book. And so that's what I'm looking at today. What are some of these techniques that are research-based that come out of this book? One of the gold standards is call first-time donors within 48 hours. The gold standard would be having a board member do it. And that leads me to the first of I call it the Diane Remin reality playbook. Because I know you're going to say, there ain't no way I'm going to get my board members to call people within 48 hours, if at all. So what I say is, doing something is better than doing nothing. And now I'm going to tell you my anecdotal thank you call story. So I read this book, and I go, this is amazing. And it turns out, I should say, what happens if you do that, if you simply call your donors within 48 hours of a first-time gift, what Penelope Burke found was a 40% increase in donors making a second gift, that all-important second gift. Oh, my God. And even better, you don't even have to talk to anybody. You could leave a message. It has the same effect. Oh, my God. Get on the phone. Get on the phone. So I have a client. I read this book, all right? And yes, it's research-based and all that good stuff, but I'm a skeptical New Yorker. I'm like, can this really be? Is it that simple? So I have a client. We're doing major gift work, which is what I usually do. And it's a membership organization, and they're good because I know she'll pay attention to what's going on. And I say, I just read this book. You want to increase your membership and your donors a little bit. She, oh, sure. What do I have to do? I said, to call them or contact them or do something within 48 hours. She said, well, we don't even have telephone numbers for everyone. So we agreed that when she had a telephone number, she'd call, and this was the staff person herself in a very small development shop who said, I will take 15 minutes 3 times a week and contact as many as I can, either with a call or with a thank you note. So she's going along, and about 3 weeks in, and I know this is just one of those lucky anecdotal stories, I get an email from her, you're not going to believe it, I actually happened to reach a donor that I called to say thank you, and when you make these calls, that's all you're doing. I am calling to thank you for your gift. We really appreciate it. You're not doing a survey. You're not asking them questions. You're not doing anything other than purely saying thank you. And she said, I had this chat with this donor. This donor wanted a chat. And she said, at the end of the conversation, he said, this is great. I love that you called me. I'm sending you a check for $10,000. And she reiterated, said, oh, no, I'm really just calling to say thank you because I know, but I want to. Okay. I said, all right, let's see if the check comes. That's me. Said, email me. A few days later, email, got the check. I said, all right. Now we put this person into the major donor loop. We send her down. She's going down to Texas as it happened. It was a Washington, D.C. organization. I said, you don't want to ask him for money yet. Now we're in major donor land a little. Just want to get to know the guy. Goes to Washington, to Dallas, where she was going to be anyway, and they meet, and she goes, yeah, I'm just here to boom, boom. He goes, another 10,000. All right, so here's the end of the story. Fast forward, $120,000 later in that year from this person because she picked up the phone and said, thank you for making a gift. Second point, forget about gift size, especially when it comes to first-time gifts. You don't have the foggiest clue who is making that gift. You know nothing about this person. Well, you know one thing. They were interested enough in your organization to take an action, to give you money. Right? That's all you know. Whether it was $10 or $100 or $1,000, you don't know anything else. And where we're shooting ourselves in the foot right at the get-go is by creating a different way of treating different people who give us money, especially at the beginning. So I strongly suggest that you think about what your donor acknowledgement system looks like, and that you will change your retention rate if you start to treat all those first-time donors the same way and give them all the welcome that they deserve. So I would like to take a few minutes, just a few, and talk about, and have you talk about, and think about how you're going to thank first-time donors. So important. I'm going to do this as like a table exercise. So I'd like each of you to just think about to yourselves for a minute how you're going to thank the first-time donors in your organizations. And then I'd like you to talk to your table mates to see what they have to say and how you all can overcome any challenges, issues, etc. that you have. So here you go. Let's each table think about how are you going to thank your first-time donors? What are you going to do? Time to start to tie storytelling into this, right? So up to now, what have I been doing? I've been preaching why does keeping your donors matter, which has nothing to do with storytelling, nothing to do with innovation, and nothing to do with collaboration. It's just the facts of the matter. One of the things we can do to help get our donors to the next gift is send them a welcome package. And so just as if you were welcoming someone into your home, you would not say, hi, come on in, and can I have a gift from you? No, you would not do that. And you should not do that to your donors either. So here we have storytelling opportunities abound. Because what do we want to do? We want to give the person who's expressed interest in our organization a little more information about us. So what do we want to tell program stories. We want to tell donor stories. We want a lovely letter from the executive director that's about the donor and the role donors play in that organization. This is a wonderful way to have what we call a touch, right? To reach out and connect to a donor. And you can test on the outside of the envelope. You can try nothing, just your logo, and you send it to them. Or you can try, welcome packet and see if anything happens. The other thing we suggest is there's an opportunity to put a response vehicle in, meaning something they send back to you that's purely so you can get a better sense of them. What are they interested in? If you have more than one program area, for example, you can be asking them, well, what are you interested in? All of the above? Or is it, our education work? Is it our actual clinical service work? Is it our whatever else it is that you do? And you can ask them how they like to be communicated with. Would you like us to send you stuff in the mail? Would you like us to send you stuff online? The more you know about how your donors would like to interact with you, the better off you are. Thank your donors 5 times. The concept is thank your donors 5 times before you ask them for the next gift. So some of you are going, what, are you kidding? No, I get that letter out the door. I'm done. No, you're not. No, you're not. There's actually a thing out in the field about thank your donors 7 times. So I read that, and I actually had my prospect researcher, I said, go find the basis of that. Is there actually a research basis for that? She couldn't find it. I think someone just made that up. So I said, all right, well, if they can make up 7 times, I'm going to make up 5 times. But I have a rationale for 5. And basically, it's that you're going to do a couple right away. Like right after the donor makes the gift, they're going to get the letter. Maybe they're going to get a call. They're going to get a note. So you've knocked off 2 of them. And then I'm thinking, there's a quarterly. So they get, once a quarter, they get something from you. They get a newsletter. They get an email with a photo of a program. They get a something. So to me, a once-a-quarter communication doesn't seem crazy from an administrative side, and it doesn't seem like the donor's going to go, enough, stop. So that's how I came to 5. But this is a Diane Remin personal opinion one. So here's what it looks like if we put it all together for a new donor. So a new donor makes a gift. They get a thank you letter, and we're going to go focus on thank you letters in a minute. I'm going to talk about why we might want to separate the IRS piece from the thank you letter. I'll come to that. They get their welcome packet. They get some sort of impact, a newsletter, an e-something. And then, after we've hit 5, we are going to ask them for the next gift. We're going to let them know we're asking them for the next gift, that we're cognizant that they made a first gift and that we're asking them for a second gift. And we actually can start inviting them into our recurring gift program. And just a one-sentence digression, which is to say monthly or recurring gift programs are the fastest growing part of annual fund. So if you don't do that, you may want to consider it. Hint, hint. And now we're at one of my favorite parts. I'm going to actually read something to you as the intro to this section, and also so I can sort of guide what I'm doing. In your program book, it invited you to bring a thank you letter with you. Did anyone bring a thank you letter with them? Did you all forget? So I'll fudge it, but it would have been really cool if you did, because you would have seen a phenomenon that you're going to have to just believe me. I hope I have enough credibility that you will believe me when I tell you what would have happened if you had brought thank you letters. But let me start here. Oh, you have one? We have one. Okay. Oh, two. All right, hold those. Okay, great. I'll get to you. Great. We have two. We'll see. A very small sample. We'll see if it'll still work. I don't know. But here's how I'm going to start. It's the only thing I'm going to read aloud to you, and it's from Lisa Sargent Communications, and it's called How to Write a Better Donation Thank You Letter and Why It Matters. Dear friend, the thank you letter began, and it broke my heart. Don't they know my name? I wondered. It was on the check I sent them, after all. Oh, there were a few hints that this $75 million charity thought anything at all of my little $25 gift. They referenced the amount and noted when it was received. But there was that vaguely unsettling member number in the upper right-hand corner. I was one of more than 8 million, and yikes. Don't we have enough numbers to remember already? I felt like part of an institution, not a fledgling member of a hard-working charity. Then came the kiss of death, the PS upgrade to make me a monthly donor. Mind you, this was an acquisition thank you. The first sentence after dear friend was welcome. Why pitch an upgrade at this point in our budding relationship? I barely knew them. The question I've always wanted to ask the author of a donation thank you letter like this one is, do you hit up all of your first dates for a monthly commitment? And based on this nifty little trick, how long do your relationships last? And they wonder why donor retention rates are tanking. Now for the scariest part. This is one of the better letters I received. Why? Because they sent one. Many nonprofits don't, or they wait so long to respond that the poor donor has forgotten who they are and the moment is lost. But the thing is, next to your fundraising appeals, your donation thank you letter is the most important communication that a donor receives. So shouldn't it sparkle with sincerity? I think so. And once you look at the numbers, I hope you will too. Lisa Sargent. And one of the numbers she's looking at, and she looks at Penelope, she's read that book too, she spent her $65. And what Penelope found was, and I know none of you are going to cop to this, I'm not going to ask for the raising of hands, but according to Penelope Burke's research, we have 60% of donors saying, I didn't get a thank you. 60. Now, if we ask the nonprofits, I can assure you 60% of you would not say, oh, yeah, no, I don't send thank yous. What the heck, right? Somewhere, I expect partly what's happening is that some of them are not registering. I don't know if the number is really that high, but it's the donor's perception. Donor's perception. You can see the anatomy of a thank you letter. I've done this about 10 times. And if I went around the room and I asked 20 of you to read me the very first 3 words of your thank you letters, here's what we would have had. Thank you for, on behalf of, thank you for, on behalf of, thank you for, on behalf of, thank you for, on behalf of. It was a lovely day in May. Thank you for, on behalf of, thank you for, on behalf of the kids in our school. Thank you for, on behalf of, etc. Yes. Oh, well, and your first 3 words in either language or both languages?
Yeah, it's really nice.
Oh.
Okay.
I just want the first 3 words after dear. The first 3.
Thank you for believing me.
Thank you for. First 3 words. Okay. So here's the point. 71% of all thank you letters sent in this country start with thank you for, on behalf of. Do you think we have bored the recipients, our donors, to death with our lack of creativity? Yes, we have. 71%. 71%. Here's a sample thank you with the elements in place, easier for you to read when you download the package. You can see, as was pointed out, the use of the word you. You can see sparkling first sentence. You can see, yes, you are thanking them and letting them know what you're doing with their money. You can see there's a way to reach you if they have questions. And you can see the PS, the second most red line, being used to drive them, in this case, to something new, your new website. The do nots. Right. A quick comment on our good old IRS required language. The problem is, if we put our IRS language into our thank you letter, what does it become to the donor? It becomes the IRS letter, right? What do? You take that letter, oh, IRS file, right? I'll do it. So I really want to beseech you, even though it does cause, this is the balance between trees and paper and donor effectiveness, to separate your IRS acknowledgement from your actually genuine thank you to your donors when you can. If you're huge, I know this gets crazy. If you're smaller, you actually can do this. And you can do this by completely separate communications, so it's an extra touch. So first they get just the lovely thank you, and it can let them know that they will receive an official acknowledgement, and then they get the official acknowledgement. Can't do that. Next best, we have our lovely letter, and on a second sheet, we have the IRS acknowledgement. So they have 2 pieces of paper, and they start, okay, like what? Okay, that's the file thing. What's this thing? Oh, they're thanking me. Isn't that nice? Thirdly, all needs to be on 1 sheet of paper below the PS, at the bottom. Okay? Really important. You're going to take time now and write these fabulous thank you letters. We'd like the donor to read them. The U test. A whole slide on you. And this applies to, pardon? Jen.
If you're sending the IRS letter separately,
Yes?
do you say nice things in it, or is it very technical?
Good question. All questions are good questions, actually. But so the question is, if you're sending the IRS separately, do you just put the boring IRS stuff, or do you actually say even more nice things? And guess what the answer is? Say more nice things. They don't have to be long, more nice things, little more nice things. Re-thank them for their gift. Can be a sentence on, here's what we're doing with it. It doesn't have to be nearly as lengthy as your original thank you, but a little, it's another thank you opportunity. So here the concept is we want to combine the U test with the concept of our stories, and so that when we're telling our stories, we are sure that they're you stories and not we stories. As Tom Ahern, who's one of the nonprofit wizards, communications, points out, corporate communications are what? Corporate communications are, we did this and we did that and we did this and we did that. Unfortunately, an awful lot of nonprofit communications sound like that. But nonprofit communications are about, you did this. Whether we all know they didn't literally go out and do it, but they made it possible for you to do it. Without them, you wouldn't be doing it. So it's you did this and you did that, meaning the you is your donor. And that's what we're looking for when you're telling your stories in your newsletters, in your thank you letters, in your videos, and everywhere that you are telling a story and you are communicating with your donors. And that is really where all of this kind of comes together. When you think about your communications with your donors, it's stories, it's you, it's how do we make the donor feel thanked in a personal way so that they know what we did with their money. That is the entire game. So now what I'd like you to do is I would like you individually now to sit, and I want you to write a sparkling first sentence for your acknowledgement letter. If you raise your hand now, you're going to read me your sentence. If you raise... And what's your name, please?
Susie Hammer with the Treasure Box Project.
Okay, go, Susie.
Heaven must be in Pembroke Pines because angels live there.
Oh, thank you, Susie.
Just say it one more time.
One more time. We want to hear it again. Okay.
Well, the donors lived in Pembroke Pines, Florida. So my first sentence is, heaven must be in Pembroke Pines, or I give their address because angels live there.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Here we go. Name?
Cheryl Handy.
Cheryl?
Jennifer is excited about her new Girl Scout uniform.
All right. Jennifer's excited about her new Girl Scout uniform. Over here. You have an emissary.
Can you see the bright eyes of 6-year-old Eddie, who loves math and quilting? Your donation made that happen.
All right. We can applaud all of these. This is like the opposite. I'm going to go to the back of the room. It's the opposite of on behalf of. Thank you for. All right. Yes. Bruce.
So, kids across the country just got a chance to be creative thanks to your support of Impact Creativity.
All right. Thank you. Over here. I'm moving around tables, so don't feel neglected.
Can you imagine a world where all women have access to education, equality, and a safe haven?
Thank you. All right. One more. Sorry. Is it really good? Should I come back? Are you going to put the pressure on over there?
I have a run-on sentence. Is that okay?
A run-on sentence? I don't know. Let's try it. If it doesn't say on behalf of or thank you for, it's probably an improvement. So let's go.
Dear Carol, your kindness has impacted the lives of more people than we are even able to tell you, as not only has it ensured the education of 30 girls at the school in Zanzibar, but your generosity has brought light, hope, and encouragement in the lives of many of the villagers.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, I should stop here. All right, one more. Oh, and I'm like, one more over there. Okay, I swear.
An abused child no longer sits alone in a courtroom while others decide his fate.
Oh, thank you. All right. Last one. All right.
Your gift has...
Whoop. Here, let's try this one.
Your gift has given me the opportunity of a lifetime to volunteer with Maya traditions in Guatemala to make a difference in the life of women weavers, and I thank you. So we were doing it from the perspective of a person who benefited.
Right. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to be back to me.
Thank you for your
So what is my point? My point is that if we would take 5 minutes, look what you did in 5 minutes. Again, when you're sending out those appeals, right? Hours and hours and people and committees and editing and re-editing and more editing. Oh, my God. But on the acknowledgement side, what do? We whip it off. Okay, thank you for your gift. That was swell. Thank you. Right? 5 minutes. And for some of you, maybe it's not even what you're really going to do. You're going to go back and you tell your communications person, I won't even read your thank you letter unless it has a sparkling first sentence, right? That's it, the new way here at our nonprofit. We need to get these thank you acknowledgments into gear. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. All right, I'm going to stop here because I have 3 minutes. And I'm going to take questions. I just want to say I was asked if it was possible to get my presentation, and I believe it will be downloadable from the Office Depot Foundation, Leon. Yes, and if by any chance that's a problem, you can always get in touch with me. But the Office Depot Foundation will have all of the presentations up after this and available to you. As they do with everything, right? They're great. Yay for the Office Depot Foundation. Really. This is a corporate foundation like none other that I've ever seen. And I really think that they make this day possible, or 2 days possible, is something beyond special. And really, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for what you do and what you do for everyone here. It's fabulous. All right, questions? Yes.
When you have it set up on the internet and people are donating on a monthly basis, and then how do you do a sparkling thank you letter if it's going to come out of like a standard format thing? And then the second question is, if it's somebody else who raised the money for you, and they have different donors that have raised the money for you, how do you thank them, the donors, regarding, like you have an employee or a staff who did a fundraising campaign?
Okay, got it? All right, I'm going to repeat your question, and actually someone came up and asked me a very similar question, which is, and this was the end of the presentation I didn't get to, which is, yes, there's an online equivalent. So the answer to how do you thank people by paper, by online, by whatever, my answer is if you don't know their preference, if the person has not stated their preference, then thank them the way they gave. Okay, so if someone gave to you online, thank them online, and guess what? You can see here that you're doing the very same thing with your online thank you. Sparkling first sentence, what did you do with the money? All the same rules apply to online. You know, pictures are great. Pictures are fine in regular thank yous too. But meet the donor where they came to you if you don't know how to thank them. In terms of, it sounds like third-party fundraising or other people thanking you, one of the things you can do then, if you don't have direct access to the donors, is in your package, because often you give third-party fundraisers a package of information, include sample thank you letters and include samples that are really well written. So all they have to do then is send those to whoever made the gift. So if you don't have direct access to the donors, the best you can do is get the people who do, give them the fodder to write a great thank you letter on your behalf. Questions? For here?
Could you please tell us the name of the book that you held up at the beginning?
Yes. I held up Donor-Centered Fundraising by Penelope Burke. It's on the slide, and everyone's name I've mentioned is in the back. There's a pretty lengthy resource section at the back of my presentation that has communication, storytelling, and donor retention resources. Yes?
Can you explain what it is and tell us a little bit more about something called online crowdfunding?
You're the person from the police who emailed me? Someone tweeted me yesterday and said, can you talk about crowdfunding? I'm like, well, okay. It's a little... Crowdfunding is a concept of, it's an online fundraising concept where you say, all right, I'm going to put out an idea online, and there are now platforms out there that make it easy for you to do that. And Kickstarter is one example. And you put your idea out. You really want to have a very specific project with a specific goal. And then the other part of the trick is you really have to have a crowd, so to speak, that you can send the link to. Okay, just because you throw up some idea that you have, a project that you have, onto a crowdfunding resource does not mean anything will happen. Where they're successful is either people light the fire, they have big networks, and they light the fire in their networks, and people then get the link, and because the project is compelling, then you get a, quote, a crowd to fund. And it can be done in two ways. It can be done purely nonprofit, or there's some crowdfunding where it's more social enterprise, and you may make a $25 gift, and your gift gets invested, and then that comes back. Yesterday, there was mention of Donor Choose, which was an example of someone starting their own, what turned out to be really a crowdfunding site based on teacher projects, right? Teachers who really don't have art supplies or books or whatever, and people have the opportunity to fund very specific teachers with very specific projects where like $200 can make a difference. So again, crowdfunding, the concept is very specific project. It needs to be compelling. It needs to have a dollar amount, and you need to be able to get it out to enough people so people start coming to it. Money does not magically fall off a tree. Question? Yeah?
Hey, Diane, do you have additional references for fundraising software? You mentioned Boomerang, but are there...
I didn't put fundraising software references other than Boomerang because that's really different because it is the only truly donor retention fundraising software that I know of. What I refer you to is a site called idealware.org, IDEALWARE.org. This is a nonprofit that reviews software, and they do it by price range, so you can put yourself into a price category and read reviews. And I think I'm probably at minus. No, I can't tell. It's saying plus, but that's hard for me to believe. I think I'm set. Thank you very much. Thank you to the Office Depot Foundation.